The Nueces County judge did issue a mandatory evacuation order for visitors here because whenever there's an evacuation, there's really only two ways out of Port Aransas.
Adam Williams was escorted by the Clayburgh County Sheriff and his deputies into those doors into the Clayburgh County Jail. That's 400 bales of cotton on fire.
Wearing a certain color can change one's perception, what others think about you or what you think about yourself. Color is powerful.
The Texas coast is no stranger to hurricanes, especially here in Corpus Christi. The last major one happening in 2017 was Hurricane Harvey. I noticed a bunch of squad cars around the house. Come to find out, someone was inside this house and it wasn't the owner. Then the wire would shrink, compressing that concrete. This is a version of pre-stressing. Can you believe it? They let me on the City of Alice's float. So whether a trip to the dog park or across state lines, people need to think about leaving their pooches behind. Anne LeBlanc was here at home enjoying a cup of coffee. When she looked outside, she saw police had surrounded her home. And well, the whole thing was captured on home surveillance. We don't know the relationship between the 30-year-old woman and the 24-year-old man, but I was able to speak with a neighbor who told me that he woke up early this morning to hearing them arguing inside the house. And when I asked if that happened often, he said that it did. One of these is recyclable. The other is garbage. Do you know which is which? It's been just over a year since the city of Corpus Christi approved an enforcement program designed to make sure you learned the difference. So, did you pass or fail? I'm like shocked right now because this thing was going off pretty much as soon as we went on air. So can you tell me a little bit about what just happened? John Henry Ramirez's time of death was 6:41. He was given that lethal injection at 6:27 here at this Huntsville unit. We were on the street and sidewalk, which is public property, by the way. Is this Edward? We're looking for Edward. They wanted to talk to Gonzalez about his policy on dismissals, but he wouldn't respond to our request. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Taylor Alanis. We start this afternoon with breaking news. The U.S. Coast Guard has confirmed they have recovered a body in the area where an oil tanker collided with a private boat on Saturday. We're trying to get Aaron to join us from Facebook Live, which we're setting up the boxes. But earlier this morning, we had our reporter Alexis Scott out on the bayfront. And like Steph was saying, a lot of this wind was coming in droves and waves. 1 minute during her live shot, she was completely dry. And then literally by the end of the live shot, she was soaked. As now we have a chief medical examiner who was arrested, and we had a deputy chief medical examiner who's arrested. So obviously this story is continuing to unravel. I wasn't here this morning. I was on the Lexington, but I got a lit.
You missed out on a special forecast. Don't worry,
you know what?
Prepared.
I'm upset, but at the same time, I'm happy that it's a Texas team. For tonight's special, we're going to be teaming up with the Marine Corps, the La Posada Foundation, and Toys for Tots. We are live from Snoopy's Oyster Bar. When you say Cowboys, most people think about those guys running around the football field, but here in South Texas, we've got the real deal. We're talking about rain, of course. Chief Meteorologist Dale Nelson joins us to break down the numbers and tell us if more is on the way. And of course, I think the big question everyone is wondering is, was it enough? In Kingsville, they're getting hit pretty hard. They are not allowing anyone in and out of the base except emergency personnel, so they are closed down for the day. GPISD will resume as normal. We have all of this information on our website, christv.com, where we're staying up to date on these school closures, road closures. There have been several setbacks for a project that was actually supposed to be finished in 2020. Well, now that part of the bridge is on pause again, what do you tell the public tonight to ensure this bridge is not only going to be finished, but that we can cross it safely? Cruising, many have been doing it for generations, but one group of people in particular like to ride low and slow. With paint bright like candy.
Pretty much you dress up a whole car.
Under a fresh coat of wax. This isn't just any car, it's art.
We're known as home of the lowriders, and then we do a lot of worldwide custom paint jobs.
Juan Leal owns Top Quality Tint and Graphics in Central Corpus Christi. His brother, just a street over, runs Leal Bros Custom Paint.
They bring him here first to design them, and then we send them to my brother Freddie to finish the paint job.
Juan, Freddie, and their siblings are second-generation lowriders.
That started back in 1974.
He was a painter, so he started noticing these lowrider cars.
Lowriders originally drove into the Southern California scene a few decades before, in the 1940s and 50s, when Hispanic men returned home from World War II.
We like to stand out from the other cars.
Instead of hot rods, they wanted a car to display their Chicano culture.
Most of the cars we do, does have something back with their family, like Latino or anything that carries Mexican heritage.
Painting, upholstering, and etching symbols of their Mexican roots.
All the hydraulics.
Whether religious symbols, familia.
They like to name the car after either a family member or something that they went through.
The reborn.
Later came the images of money and women.
And in the trunk of this one, we got Shakira and J-Lo. Just try to keep it in the Latino image, you know what I mean?
Oh, and they gotta add a little bounce.
You have to have hydraulics. Yeah, hydraulics makes the car.
The Liaos say films and music sometimes show lowriders in a negative light.
And a lot of people think like low riding, they think we're gang banging and stuff like that. It's not really like that.
Freddie, who's also the president of the City Style Car Club, says it's actually the opposite.
Christmas, Halloween, we have a trunk or treat. Also, we do a lot of benefits to help people. I mean, we try to keep it family oriented and give back to the community because, I mean, we try to do stuff for them too. It's not just about business.
Without the lowriders coming out in a parade, it's not a parade. And they ask us to hop the car.
From parades to the showroom floor.
We're a 3-time war champ.
Wow. They left to turn heads.
That car probably worth like $1 million.
It's an expensive and competitive sport.
The most expensive car that I ever worked on is called Double Trouble. It's a 57 Chevy convertible.
Meeting and customizing for people from across the country.
Chicago, Vegas, Dallas, I mean, you name it.
Lowriders make it a bad rap, but they're just artists, happy to share their passion with the world.
I take pride in my work and I like doing what I do because it's fun and it's not all about a trophy or you're winning, it's just to show off your what you could do with the paint job.
All right, I'm gonna take a line from that classic 1970s war song, you know the one, and take a little trip. Taylor Alanis, Chris 6 News. Wait, so you can bounce and move at the same time?
Went to look at the manner of death and it said homicide. I was in total shock.
Shock that Tamara Gonzalez felt 2 days before her first Christmas without her son.
I said, I just want to know what happened to my son. I owe it to my son to know what happened to him, you know, to know if someone did something to him.
38-year-old Joseph Joey Gonzalez went missing on June 11th, 2020.
He has a slight disability. He takes medication for seizures, and he's a little slow because of that.
His family and police searching for days.
So I knew something was wrong. It wasn't like him to get in a car. He didn't drive to go anywhere.
On day 5, Joey's body was found off La Costa Drive, face down in a water-filled drainage ditch.
That day was kind of a blur, but when they did get there, I remember asking someone, they said it doesn't look like a suspicious death.
Gonzalez says she was told it would take 60 to 90 days to get his autopsy back from the deputy chief medical examiner at the time, Dr. Danica Adams.
It's hard to have any closure when you don't know what happened to your loved one.
She says many phone calls and emails later, she found that Adams was actually fired and chief medical examiner Adele Shaker would take over Joey's autopsy. But when she received the file, she was surprised the cause of death was homicide and had questions.
What did you see in this report that made you think that my son was murdered?
She says Shaker told her it was Adams who noted trauma on Joey's body and determined he died by homicide, but that he would change it to undetermined. Joey's death certificate shows 3 different causes of death, pending, homicide, and undetermined. Gonzalez says she questioned Shaker's quick decision to change his opinion. In the meantime, the Texas Rangers were already looking into Dr. Shaker. In a recorded interview with the Rangers, an autopsy tech who worked at the Nueces County Emmy's office at the time says it was Shaker, not Adams, who ruled Joey's death a homicide.
All that Dr. Shaker had to go off of was not being there in person, but the photos that we took that day. He looked at those photos and then looked at all the paperwork that Dr. Adams had taken notes on, but still determined homicide.
The technician recalls seeing both Shaker's and Adams' notes.
She had nothing in her notes talking about subscapular area, the area he was talking about that noted anything of trauma. But he stated that there was trauma.
Shaker's attorney, Chris Gale, says Shaker read articles and research that Adams put in Joey's file.
There was a plethora of information regarding trauma to this particular victim. The title on this one, should probably be undetermined. And I think that Dr. Shaker, in looking at it, wanted to do that not only for her, but to be more accurate.
Gonzalez contacted Adams, who replied via email, quote, "You were being lied to by Dr. Shaker," end quote. We asked Adams what she meant, telling us off camera she didn't put any articles in Joey's file, there was no trauma associated with foul play, and she never determined his death a homicide. She talked to the Rangers back in 2020 about her concerns with Shaker's work.
He cuts corners. I've seen it multiple times where, cases that should get at least a partial autopsy, he does externals.
Thursday at 10 o'clock, we will hear more from that investigation, including an interview with a medical examiner who examined autopsies done by Shaker and claims they were falsified. Taylor Alanis for 6 Investigates.